Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday. And as always, we got a great lineup for y'all today. You guys know we're doing it digitally and we got to bring it to you. And I got to point it on over to my guy, Big O. What's up, Big O? Happy Wednesday, my friend.
Trey Holiday, happy Wednesday, happy hump day. Man, I see you done. Look at you. The lighting done switched up over there, huh?
Hey, I'm trying to get like you, Big O. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get like you.
Hey, man, that's what's up. Well, it's a lot of news in the news. Man, did you see this debate last night?
Oh my gosh, the debate. Yes, man. I caught it, bro.
Oh, you caught it. All right. Well,
I
we'll
caught it.
we'll be talking more about the debate here in a bit. But something that came out yesterday that a lot of people might have missed or weren't aware of is that first the judge said down there, I'm talking about the Breonna Taylor case down in Louisville, and we'll get to the debate. Believe me, there's enough to talk about that. Also, the mayor transmitted her budget out to the city yesterday. She put together a nice video. We got a clip out of that and a few other things that are going on. But developing story out of Louisville, Kentucky, because the judge ordered the release of the grand jury tapes, and we'll play that first. But then the attorney general came in, Daniel Cameron came in, and now asked for a delay. And so now he wants to delay the release for a week. First clip here is actually, though, from CBS Evening News last night.
Well, tonight, we're following several stunning new developments in the Breonna Taylor shooting. The grand jury proceedings will be made public tomorrow. That's after one of the jurors went to court accusing the attorney general of misrepresenting their deliberations. No charges were filed against officers for the death of Taylor. CBS's Adriana Diaz reports tonight from Louisville.
As Louisville anticipates tomorrow's release of the secret grand jury recordings, tonight Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron admitted that no charges are recommended for Breonna Taylor's death.
Ultimately, our judgment is that the charge that we could prove at trial beyond a reasonable doubt was for wanton endangerment against Mr. Hankinson.
All along, we asked, was there any evidence even presented on Breonna Taylor's behalf?
Ben Crump represents Taylor's family.
We at least want to know that it's equal justice under the law for Black people as victims, not only when Black people are accused of crimes. We continue to ask for full transparency.
And so is a grand juror who filed a motion asking to speak publicly, accusing Attorney General Cameron of using the grand jurors as a shield to deflect accountability and responsibility. Kevin Glogauer represents the anonymous juror.
Again, my client's concern is making sure that there's the appropriate information for the public as a whole to see what's going on.
Tonight, Louisville's incoming interim police chief, Yvette Gentry, the first female to hold the post, says her first order of business is removing the plywood from police headquarters.
Many in this community say they've lost confidence in their police officers. How do you rebuild that confidence?
I think it starts with me. Leading by example and being a woman of my word and being accessible to people. The door that you're feeling like you got to kick down is open.
In that local news interview, Cameron called the grand jury an independent body and said they could have considered charges against the other officers if they'd wanted to. The grand jury recordings will be turned over to the court by noon tomorrow. It's unclear how they'll be released to the public. Nora?
Adriana Diaz, thank you.
So it looks like the attorney general, they never even filed any kind of murder charges or presented a murder case to the grand jury.
Yeah, that's heavy information for the public to actually hear and be in the know of at this point, because obviously everybody was thinking that there was literally a charge against her, the officer that actually caused her death. So to hear this from the attorney general is another, like, wow, who would have thought? And then it makes people ask the question of, is this really the justice system we have here in America, where everyone could see that somehow we need to be able to file charges? That shouldn't happen. That feels like a wrong, no matter what is written in the law books or the judicial system or whatever. whatever, that doesn't feel right. So how do we change it? How do we update the system to actually respond to cases like this and actually give the power to an attorney general who could feel like, no, we actually have the all that we need to go in there and actually charge for murder. So once again, another thing for us to learn from with how the system is built.
Yeah, I mean, they never presented it to the grand, so the grand jury never had an opportunity. And I mean, what Cameron is saying is like, hey, they're an independent body. If they wanted to go and find a murder charge, they could have. But you know, like most juries or things that are impaneled, you're kind of following instructions of what's presented to you. And then another breaking story here around this is I think we have this clip here, number 2. Cameron last night said that, you know, he released the tapes and everything else, but we'll go ahead and put that one up there. But now it's like Kentucky AG seeks 1 week delay in the release of the tapes. And so now he says that he needs a week to be able to release this because he has to redact some names and do some other stuff. So, I mean, it's really looking like, it's looking like a lot, man, that's going on down there in Louisville, as far as the way that this case is rolled out. And now he's asking for a 1 week delay in even releasing this information to the public.
And, you know, first and foremost, her family demands answers. Her family demands justice. All of the people whose families get wrapped up into this system, that, you know, it's like they're the ones that dealt with the police violence. They're the ones that are dealing with it. And they're the ones that have to reel in it after the fact. So really, now is not the time for any more delays. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that family demands justice. And we need to understand what's going on in these cases. I think for me, this is really a true example of how America works, how the system was designed. We're really actually seeing all of the cracks and all of the ways that the system was designed. Once again, the way it was designed, it's working the way it was supposed to, full of bureaucracy and, you know, full of delays for this family. That's unfortunate. So hopefully that AG can get things expedited quickly and people can understand what's going on, man. They deserve answers.
All right. Well, the nation was tuned in last night to the first presidential debate of 2020. I don't know how much more tuning in people are going to do to any more debates, though. I mean, this was just bad.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I've seen more civilized debates in like the protests. You know, you be down there and people are debating each other, and it's more civil than what we saw last night. I mean, man, just kind of horrible all the way around. I think that, you know, I mean, there definitely was no winner, and the big loser is the American people, you know. But anyways, we'll jump right into this. One of the big clips that's going around here is when the moderator here, Wallace, he asked President Trump to denounce white supremacy.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
to
specifically
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
malicious. That's what his FBI. His FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
When a bat hits you over the head, that's not an idea.
Everybody
Antifa
in your administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous,
all right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
We're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question.
My goodness. He said stand back and stand by is what he said. Okay. He did not denounce
This morning it's a rally. It was a rally cry. This guys have t-shirts out, all this kind of stuff. And so the thing is that even prior to the protest that were sparked back in May and continuing in a lot of cities across America, white supremacy groups were considered one of the biggest terrorist threat, homegrown terrorist threat in America. And the president's never acknowledged that. But if we play clip number 4 here, this was the FBI Director Wray basically saying the same thing. This was even a year ago.
How would you describe the danger to public safety that is posed by white supremacist extremism?
Well, the danger, I think, of white supremacist violent extremism or any other kind of violent extremism is, of course, significant. We assess that it's a persistent, pervasive threat.
You see today white nationalism as a rising threat around the world.
I don't really. I think it's a small group of people that have very, very serious problems. I guess if you look at what happened in New Zealand, perhaps that's a case. I don't know enough about it yet. They're just learning about the person and the people involved. But it's certainly a terrible thing. Terrible thing. Yes.
So, I mean, like I said, some of the things, right, with this administration at times is that this is President Trump's FBI director. It's not like somebody else who's out there giving their opinion or whatever. This is the president's FBI director saying these kind of things openly in public, making these reports and everything else. But, what I'm saying, time and time again, the president's kind of skirted away from it. And that's why, like last night, I think a lot of people were looking for the president to be like, yeah, nah, man, I denounced this. It's crap.
Right.
But, he didn't quite go that direction.
No, it surely didn't. And like I just said, folks, I mean, this was all over social yesterday, stand back and stand by, became a huge deal. And honestly, it was like, wait, did he mean to say that? I mean, I think that, the American people have been kind of on this yo-yo during these last, 3.5, almost 4 years, really yo-yo with all of this. Like, when I heard that, literally, I thought, was that a slip of the tongue, or was he like putting a notice out there? Was he that was his call to action for them? So, I mean, this is something that, again, he's never really addressed. It's clear that he won't address it. He said, he was like, I'll say whatever you want me to say, basically, and then didn't say that. So, once again, another unanswered question or another unanswered comment by the president. We were really looking for him to stand up against this kind of rhetoric. And it just seems that, he wants to keep on making it about the left. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's like, it's not hard to make a stand against violence.
Right.
It's like, what I'm saying? It's very few people that are like, yeah, I'm pro-violence. You see what I'm saying? It's not hard to be like, yo, man, I'm not with that. I'm not with anything that's violent. And, I mean, for sure, he's like, well, this group on the left, man, sure, they're violent. You're against it. This group on the right, they're violent. You're against it. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, a perfect opportunity really in what was a mess of the protest, what was an overall mess anyway. I mean, it really could have been a better moment as far as, our country is concerned and everything else, to maybe hear the president take a different approach to that answer. I mean, me as a Black person, I'm just like, damn, dog, I mean, and I know people follow these things through their life journey and life experience. There's a lot of other people who, might not have an experience or whatever around white supremacy issues and everything else. They're like, man, it's no big deal. Why are you tripping? But for a good number of population that has dealt with these issues, then you hear these kind of things and it's like, man, it's hella discouraging, for lack of other words.
Absolutely, man. Definitely discouraging. And I think that, once again, like you said in the beginning, a lot of folks may watch the first 5-10 minutes of the next debate and then turn it off. I mean, this is not, don't want to hear this. And ultimately, the thing that was really sad was that, unfortunately, nobody really got the answers even out of Joe Biden. There were certain things that it was like, you have an opportunity right now, but it was nothing but these attacks on one another. So it was really unfortunate for the American public, man.
And what I'm saying is, what a total lack of, and this is, I mean, a lot of people like cheering on the sideline on this either way, but what we saw last night, man, was the rapid and consistent decline of civility in our society. You know, I mean, man, civility is a lost art, and being able to disagree with someone's idea, but not disagree with them as a person or a human being, it's a lost art. And
Yeah.
I mean, we see this, and actually, I got another clip right here of how hard this was to manage for Chris Wallace, and who was the debater last night. I mean, they just ran all over him.
Yeah, the moderator, he was having a hard time, man. And honestly, shout out to him. Kudos to him, because I think he was trying. It was it was hard to kind of get a word in edgewise, but you're right, man. That was tough to watch for him last night.
We actually had a clip right here.
Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
You're going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question.
Why would you answer that
because
question?
the question
is radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe? You didn't want me to ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban.
All right, gentlemen,
which was heavily infected. You would have been much later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr. President,
you're talking about 2 million people.
You're not
President, as a moderator.
Why is it on the ballot? It's not on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the court.
I don't think so.
In the court. Well,
there's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you just
don't know her view on Roe v. Wade.
I don't know
her view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time, so I'm going to give you an opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of
Obama.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris, that was the worst part of Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
We
will protect people with
President, I'm the moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your question.
We're saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said, and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
Now, I am
and
the
they're going to dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the Democratic Party is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now,
Vice President,
can I be honest? It's a very important
question. Try to be honest.
He stood up.
No, the answer to the question is no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
that is absolutely
you know what,
not true.
You're doing it.
You're going to have
true,
gentlemen. I hate to raise my voice, but I see it seems to be. Why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal.
Good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting than he has.
That's all right, but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less than
plenty.
No, less than you have.
With you,
go ahead. Wait a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown.
My God, what a compilation of last night's craziness and chaos that we were all probably watching. Oh my gosh. Poor Chris Wallace.
I'm saying poor United States of America. I mean,
yeah.
Just what kind of example, is that? And schools, and you got teachers, trying to teach students, young children, how to be civil and how to listen to other people, not to reply but to understand, and things like that. There's so many examples across America of in any kind of space. I mean, imagine the workspace. Imagine a workspace mediation now. It's like, hey, man, the presidential candidate did this. Why can't I just say whatever? I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think there's anybody in America who's really like, yo, that was a great debate. It was whatever. I mean, it's horrible.
No, it was horrible all around. And I think that, even though Joe Biden, interrupted President Trump less than Trump was interrupting him, it still just felt like, a real battle between these two old white guys. And here I am, a young Black woman, like, these are the people that are going to represent us. It's tough. And then even some of Joe Biden's stance on, like he's not for defund. So I really wonder, what is it going to look like under his presidency if he wins? What would it look like in terms of a lot of this movement, a lot of the voice of the people, and how would he respond to that? I'm curious to all of that. I think reimagining policing is definitely at the hearts and minds of so many of the major cities across this country, that taking that off the table is really not an option. So it's really going to be about an innovative approach. But again, yeah, you're absolutely right, Oz. Poor America, because if there were folks that were on the fence, I don't think they got anything last night that was going to help them get off the fence.
Yeah. Well, actually, Triana, it's like, man, it's a lot, So I was thinking about doing a post show on that, and I was just like, man, it's just burnt. And this goes back to way before, back in early part of the year when we were talking about this election coming up. We're just like, man, what are people going to do? You know what I'm saying? And when you talked about the difference between like Biden and Trump and all this, a lot of times, really, man, for Black people who are in marginalized positions in America, man, there really don't be no change. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, it's let's just keep it real. You know what I'm saying? People maybe in certain tax brackets and things like that, they see some improvement, but and I don't know. I just, there's Republican, there's Democrat. I'm just glad that months ago we thought of a third alternative for people in our community. And I'm telling everybody, we just need to vote Black love.
I love that.
You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, do we got that clip on you? Do we got our vote? Here's our alternative right here, our new upcoming show. Yeah, I couldn't resist throwing that one in there. We got our Vote Black Love TV show actually starts. I guess it's coming this month in October, and a day from now. And it started off kind of as a joke. It was like, man, you know what, Republicans, Democrats, what we need to do is vote Black love. And it turned into a show. You know what I'm saying? Here's our show right here. But after last night, it's like, man, these guys. It's wild. Before we move on, there was a tweet last night by The Daily Show. I think kind of summed it up. You put that up there, oh yeah. It says, Chris Wallace debate performance tonight is a great reminder that kindergarten teachers are underpaid. Because that's kind of what it looked like, man. So at least these debates are giving us lots to talk about. In case we needed it, we got lots to talk about. And actually, programming going in October, we're launching a political show for all these political junkies out here. We've got all kinds of different perspectives coming in from the national and statewide and local races that are going on. And so it's a whole show. Hopefully I won't be on it. But that's rolling out in about a week. And so people will be able, for all the political junkies out there, keeping it on politics though. The mayor yesterday, Mayor Durkan, she transmitted her budget yesterday, 751 pages. Stayed up last night. I read the whole thing. Psych. But 751 pages. And And also, instead of doing a presser and things like that, well, she did do a briefing beforehand, but man, she made a video. It was like 14 minutes long, nice cutaways, B-reels, music, everything else. But we took 4 minutes of her address yesterday, or video yesterday. Some of the stuff that seemed kind of relevant to our community, and so wanted to play this for everybody. And yeah, let's discuss it on the other side, Tram.
For too long, we've allowed our systems to perpetuate inequity, particularly against our Black neighbors. That is why this budget also begins to address the historic disparities brought forward by the COVID-19 pandemic and since the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. I signed my first executive order the day I was sworn into office, focusing our efforts around race and social justice. Since then, as a city, we have made record investments to advance equity and justice. Things like $1.5 billion in new affordable housing to build thousands of new units, nearly $100 million on quality preschool and childcare, more than $30 million in our Equitable Development Initiative to invest in community-based organizations that are working to combat displacement, like Africa Town, Ethiopian Village, the Filipino Community Center, Chief Seattle Club, and Bird Bar. We've spent $40 million for youth safety and a 7-year commitment for free college and a program to get those students jobs so they can be part of our innovative economy. Our budget makes a lot of hard decisions, but if we want a more equitable city when we recover from this crisis, we must make real our promises to our BIPOC communities. We need deep and lasting investments, and we must empower community to guide those investments. That is why my budget commits an additional $100 million in new spending for Black communities, Indigenous communities, and communities of color. It will invest in building opportunity and an inclusive economy, community wealth building and preserving cultural spaces, community wellness and safety, environmental justice, and a Green New Deal. Building on our current investments in equity, this $100 million investment allows us to invest in more young people, community safety programs, and the next generation of affordable housing in our community. We need to do more of what we've done in the past 3 years, but these decisions must be driven by community needs and priorities and community voices, not by City Hall. It must be community itself that crafts an investment plan to build on the health of community. Community members will guide us to direct these resources where they're needed the most. Investing in community wealth, wellness, and strength is also the path to true community safety. By investing in equitable, healthy, and resilient communities, we reduce the need for emergency 911 responses. Here in Seattle and in cities across the nation, people have spoken out and demanded that we reimagine policing. As U.S. Attorney, I led the investigation of the Seattle Police Department that resulted in the consent decree. That work created some of the nation's leading policies on policing. It also allowed the Seattle Police Department to hire the best officers and train them in crisis intervention and de-escalation. And it created robust civilian-led accountability systems so we can hold officers accountable. But reimagining policing is more than just training and policies. We need to rethink how the Seattle Police Department serves our city and address the continued racial disparities in policing. And we need to make further changes to our criminal legal system, like reforming probation and breaking the cycles of incarceration. We need more programs to prevent violence, alternatives to incarceration, and a community court. We also need to shift many of the 800,000 calls for help from armed police officers to other community-based programs. Too often, our officers are responding to other failures. The failures in the foster care system, our behavioral health system, our homelessness system, and our education system. Those aren't problems officers should have to address. Often, 911 calls require a fast police response. And Seattle needs a strong, well-trained, and community-based department for those calls. There is a need and strong support for our officers in this city. But nonviolent calls don't always need an officer with a gun. Someone in crisis may need a social worker, a nurse, a crisis counselor, or an unarmed community service officer. So reimagining policing will be fundamentally changing the role of traditional police in our community and their interactions with our community.
All right, Trey, there's your mayor. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that, once again, there's a lot of things in there that sound really good, right? One of the things that I think Mayor Durkan does really well is she takes a lot of what she hears and then packages it in these amazing sound bites. I think what we have to do is really follow it up with some real accountability and transparency from her office to understand how this is going to happen. She was talking about a community-centric approach around, the community really deciding where those funds go and what gets invested in, what the real needs are. But yet she hasn't really endorsed the participatory budgeting process. So there's certain things about Jenny Durkan in particular that always kind of confuse me, because it's when I see that, I'm like, you're for all the things that we're for, right? It's like we're all on the same page. Why is it that we have to draw lines in the sand? Or why is it that it feels like lines are drawn in the sand when it comes between the city and community? So I loved hearing what she was saying. Again, I'm hoping that there's a real plan to do that and that it really is community centric.
Well, yeah, I think one of the feedbacks that I got from the video and from a lot of people who are in organizations and things like yourself, but just regular people, is like, yeah, well, everything that she said sounds good. And so it's like, so there's two ways to look at it. It's like, is Mayor Durkan very tuned in to the community? She's listened to the community. She's taken their concerns seriously, and now she's working towards it. Or is it, okay, Mayor Durkan has listened to the community, extrapolated some key points and trying to dance around it or whatever. And so I think that's, the proof is in the pudding, it's in the follow-up. But I don't think there's anybody, well, not speaking for everybody, but I think that a lot of people would say that when they heard her, even on Friday, some of the things that she was talking about in the interview, and then of course in that video yesterday, it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, she wants to reduce the 911 calls. She wants to work with communities. She wants to build more stuff with housing. She wants to do, a lot of these same things that community groups and organizations, your organization, King County Equity Now, African Town Community Land Trust has been talking about. So is your big concern then that maybe she's co-opted talking points in formulating something, or that she's being disingenuous?
Yeah, I think my main concern is we love what she's saying. We want to make sure it happens, right? Whether she's disingenuous or not, or co-opting or not, I'm not sure. What I will say is that I'm listening to what she's saying, and I'm really hoping that that's what her office does, right? And really,
right.
To me, she's presented with opportunities right now to really connect with community and accept this participatory budgeting process and do it that way instead of this kind of task force that she's been trying to build.
Right. And I mean, politicians are supposed to listen and act upon. Right. So it can't be, we can't necessarily have it both ways. Like, oh, well, community told you what we wanted and you didn't even mention it or talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, as a politician, she's heard the people, and the next steps is the follow through. But the follow through and the accountability falls upon all the citizen stakeholders of our city. You know what I'm saying? It's an unfair and undue burden to make accountability the job of just a few different community groups or organizations. I mean, everybody who has a vested interest in this city needs to be part of this accountability process to see, what happens and how it rolls out and everything else. She's promised a lot of stuff. And for me, they talked about this 100 million, and it turns out the 100 million, a lot of it's going to come from this jumpstart tax, and you got a whole another group of people upset about that and everything else.
It's hard to
But I was telling you all along, it isn't like you can just pull this money out the sky. You see what I'm saying? There's no way, if that money is real, and we'll see, you know, ultimately if it hits the streets, that it's just going to come out of thin air when you're talking about this big budget deficit that the city has right now. Somebody was getting jacked. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it real.
You know it, man. It doesn't come out of thin air, like you said. And I also think, too, that understanding her strategy around what she just did in that video and what she was talking about in that video is super important for community, because historically what ends up happening is we hear those amazing sound bites, and then we realize that they're actually doing things behind the scenes to derail all of those amazing sound bites, right? To actually derail the work that it took from community to come up with those sound bites. And so I'm really hoping that her office isn't doing that, because a lot of the times that we've seen this, the Black community has seen this time and time again, where there's a lot of closed door back office meetings, you know, seedy. I imagine these, you know, rooms full of smoke, like there's, you know, somebody in the background with a cigar, and it's just, you know, all types of seediness happening. You know, we've seen that in many movies, but I'm just saying that the ideas around, you know, what really happens and how deals get made and how things get struck is these kind of smaller closed door sessions that happen. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, I was meeting with this person and that person. And you get the report back, that then people are trying to follow the trail of the report back to figure out, well, wait a minute, how did it get to that? So I think just ending all of that and really leveling up on the transparency and the accountability is so true. I think there's a part of it that really comes from the people, and then there's definitely a part that's going to have to come from our office. Oh, make it equitable all around.
Yeah, you know, I mean, this task force also has a lot of questions. And actually, Erica Barnett, she has an article up there on publiccola.com. It's republished also on the South Seattle Emerald, where it talks about the budget announcement and use of the Jumpstart tax and, you know, unspecified BIPOC investments. And I think that's, you know, kind of what people are waiting for. That's fine. What people are waiting for. And we'll see, you know, tomorrow at this town hall, you know, maybe she'll put some more meat on the bones and also address this issue of Black and BIPOC investment, and also task force. I mean, that I don't, you know, that's just going to be a tough one, because for sure, nobody, this I'll go on to say, nobody's going to be totally happy with whoever ends up being on this task force.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's a bit of cherry picking. That's what makes it tough. And I think opening it up the process to, you know, regular individuals, everybody who is not connected or plugged in, but they also are a constituent in the Emerald City. They care about how money is going to move into communities. I think that's super important. And, you know, again, this is a new innovative thing, and it's done in very small pockets. All of the research really showcases that participatory budgeting, it isn't done at this kind of city council and mayoral level. It really isn't. So this will be unprecedented, what we're trying to do, but it is really the move that's needed in order to really address the voice of the people. And I'm hoping that her office is wanting to do that.
I had a quick question for you though. Participatory budget, you know, and sounds like big committees, lots of meetings, lots of feedback and everything else. Don't you feel that might slow down the process though of money actually getting to the streets?
I think one of the things about it is that you have both, right? You have both. It's like a both and. Yes, it may be a little bit longer, but also it's going to be that much more impactful, right? And so you take the impact over the time, because you're like, look, all this other time, the way that things were happening, the impact was lessened, right? Because they decided to do it, to give it to this organization, and then their administrative fee was exorbitant, and then they padded their pockets. And so then what really hit the community was a fraction of the cost, or a fraction of the investment that was supposed to hit the community. So it's things like that we're really trying to avoid with this process. And you're right, there is going to be some shifting in the way that things are done, because when you open it up to people, we have to decide and design what that's going to look like, right? Is it going to be that the window's open for 72 hours for folks to be able to give their vote, and then however many votes are given at that time, then, you know, so it's really about designing the process to make it make sense. But you're right. Oh, there is going to be a little bit of give and take on that.
Yeah, well, you know, there's people, this process is there. You know, I think that the mayor kind of set this up in a way where it's like, you know, here's your bucket, You know what I'm saying? Here's your money. You guys figure it out. And of course, the King County Equity Now, people in that coalition, you're going for participatory budget. But what we also don't know is who else might be influencing. And I mean, that's another question to ask the mayor. Is like, oh well, okay, King County Equity Now is saying let's have participatory budget, but maybe there's another group or another organization or another influence that's like, well, participatory budget might not work. Let's try this task force. So it'd be interesting to know where the influence is around this system that the mayor has created around the 100 million has come from. Maybe it just came from them sitting around their office spitballing like, hey, let's do a task force. Maybe there's another group that's giving input to the mayor, and and if so, it would be good to also kind of hear you guys, the participatory budget people. You guys are able to list like 10 different bullet points, whether people agree with them or not, about, this is why you want participatory budget. It would be good for the mayor's office to come out and say, well, man, here's our X number of points of why this task force and why we want to do task force. And here's how task force does this, and that. But I think that there's a deficiency in the communications around this plan. If the mayor is just saying, here's a task force, they're going to do it. Why don't you sell people on it? I mean, whether you agree with participatory budget or not, guys can at least pitch you on it. Like, yeah, you do this, the small guy gets a word, it's that, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. The mayor she might need to get out and get the selling and sell people as to why this task force is the best route, especially if she wants people to really embrace what she's proposing with open arms. I mean, it's crazy. It's $100 million. And people are like, yeah, kind of, maybe, I don't know. You see what I'm saying? So that'll tell you that there's not a lot of trust that's out there right now. There's not a lot of communication that's out there right now, because nobody's just like saying they're running towards it with open arms. And if you're out there in community and man, you're ecstatic about this, let us know. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to people who have a varying viewpoint. It might be some people who are just like, man, the 100 million is there. Let's go make it happen. But what I'm hearing right now is a lot of people are like, let's see.
Well, yeah, I think that you're absolutely right in terms of the mayor's office really describing and putting out there why they want something other than what the community's voice is demanding. My main thing to Mayor Durkan or to any elected official is, I get it. There's a wide variety of voices out there, but why aren't you listening to the largest voice? Why aren't you listening to the ones that are coming out? They're on the streets. They're demanding justice. They're doing direct action. There's certain folks that are doing direct action because they're tired of begging, right? They're tired of being out there and just using their voice. So they're like, screw it. I'm gonna, destroy some property maybe, because maybe then you'll listen. Maybe then you'll give a shit. Excuse me, right? Maybe then you'll care. And I think that there's a point of that desperation that she's not responding to, or her office is not responding to. And I'm wondering, why not? Why is it that you have to come up with a different process? How come every time that the community and the voices of the people are speaking out, why isn't your office saying, well, what can I do to work within these demands? How can I really listen to these people? I mean, we talked about it before. She gave you a litany of folks that she was meeting with. A lot of representatives from King County Equity Now were not all throughout that list. And King County Equity Now represents all of these groups, so many groups, right, that have been doing this work on the ground. So why weren't there, representatives from different organizations that are doing this work, that are spearheading it? Why haven't they been some of the main people you're talking to? You're talking to other people. And so there's always this kind of disconnect where that's what I'm talking about when it comes to trust. So when community hears these things, and that's really what builds the relationship too. Let's be honest here, is that you being a genuine person and saying, oh, look, I'm going to work with the folks that I know who are on the ground. I don't care that we've had, disagreements in the past. Let me work with them because I hear their voice. I hear them clearly. The whole city hears them. Let me really figure out how to work within this. But it feels like everything is something other than what that large collective voice is saying. And that's what kind of concerns me about her approach.
Ooh, Trayana, you're going to be in trouble. My mama done heard you curse on air. Ooh, she going to be on your head when she see you. All right. Well, like I said, hopefully some of these things. Tomorrow's the town hall. We'll talk about that more here in a bit. Hopefully we'll hear more about the actual follow through on a lot of these things. Because I will agree with. We hear a lot of smoke and mirror tactics and continuously out of City Hall for decades. Like, it's nothing new for people to tell us everything we want to hear, and it doesn't follow through. Good opportunity for for the mayor to explain why this task force, because it's a lot of people that don't understand. And me, I don't know if participatory budget's the right way or task force the right way, or if there's another way. But people need to at least be able to explain why it is their methodology, especially when it's that much money. It's a lot of money, $100 million. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, and for sure, everybody's not going to agree on the process. So we just might as well just agree that people aren't going to agree, but we should all be able to understand the different processes. And so I think that's probably where the gap is at least one of many. Moving on here, Seattle. And we put this one up here. Oh yeah, Seattle became the second city in America here to give a minimum wage to Uber and Lyft drivers, and basically $16.39 an hour. The new law says that the companies have to pay at least 56 cents a minute when there is a passenger in the vehicle. This has been a big story for a while. They've adopted that. You can read more about that on GeekWire. Yesterday, man, it was kind of a big. I guess it was a big deal in a sense. It was a nice kind of story to cover. I wasn't on the cover, but it was a nice story in the Seattle Met. And a lot of times I end up in stuff and they don't quite get it right. But the Seattle Met, they really got it right. And they're talking about protest coverage. Talked about compared to like how I used to have to hustle working in these media houses in East Africa and other parts of the world, like coming back home, I'm chilling. But also talks about the experience over there during the Chaz and Chop and the Western Barricade and everything else. Big shout out to the Seattle Met. Man, it was a nice write up. I appreciate it.
Oh man, Big O doing big things, baby. I see you out here. I love it, man. That's great. Great coverage. And actually I loved it too. Very comprehensive of your experience, and give the audience another way to connect with, the work that really takes on the ground to cover these stories. So I was loving it, man. Great job, O.
Yeah, I think the best quote is like how the quote in there is put is like, man, we ain't come out here to be on the international news or the national news. We just came out here, to show people in our community what was going on. And who knew, you know what I'm saying, that informing our community ended up informing the world.
There we go.
So another thing, you see, I got my T-shirt on. There's no excuses, no excuse. We weren't supposed to really launch this for a few more weeks, but clearly there's all this stuff going on. There's this town hall, everything else. We got a lot of eyeballs here, man. I'm also in marketing, so this no excuses, no excuses jobs.com. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, this is really a site, for video. It's video resume. We're changing the game, and so it's a lot of people like me. Like I said, I came back home. I couldn't get a job. This algorithm and everything else that's out there, excluded me and my work experience and everything else. And so instead of complaining about it, we're doing something about it. And we're gonna be talking more and more about no excuses jobs.com. And, especially if you're a company, you say that you're all about, the value of Black lives and everything else. We're going to give you a direct opportunity to hire Black people so you can really put your money where your mouth is. It's going to be launching fully in a few weeks. But if you're a hiring manager or a company, you go there right now, put in your email address and get you more information. Also, we're starting off in the tech category. If you're tech, you're looking for a job, go there. And we're taking all the barriers. I like to tell people I'm gonna remove all barriers to success. So you know what I'm saying? We're taking all the barriers away for these companies, that say that they want to be able to get more Black people in through the door and in their company and working. I'm gonna remove all the barriers so you'll have no excuses. So excited about this.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, and and our stories echo one another. I mean, you were all overseas doing media. I was just here doing it. But once again, for some odd reason, the algorithm did not pick up Treyana Holiday. It was not picking me up. So I feel you on this. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to offer to people that are here. There has been a real disconnect, some type of void happening when it comes to like higher wage incomes. We can see that in the statistics around, around home ownership and the wealth and the wealth gap. But I do think that this is a beautiful platform because doing a selfie of yourself, and I love how he says, build your game, up your game. I love that because it's like, connect with folks and diversity and inclusion. D&I has been huge in the corporate sphere for so long that now it's about time. Now they'll have absolutely no excuses. I love it.
And let me say this, Trey. Not only could I not get a job, of all the places I applied in Seattle, I only got one interview. I didn't even get close to a job. Couldn't even get an interview. You know what I'm saying? There's something definitely wrong. And instead of complaining about it, man, we're going to be about it. So, no excuses, jobs.com is coming that way. Hey, wanted to slide this in. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. Something special for our supporters, our subscribers on Patreon, and our supporters on Facebook. We got another video exclusively that we're putting up for you. We appreciate you. We had Jake Gravbrot sat down with Marcus Harrison Green of the South Seattle Emerald, and Jake talked about some of his experiences early on around the Western Barricade and the Chaz and Chop through his photos. And here's a short clip.
The experience itself, gosh, it was crazy because I remember I have actual video of us walking up from that. I actually saw from the side, so my experience of the precinct being abandoned was actually watching all of the National Guard and all of the police units roll out to the south on 12th Avenue. And it was just crazy to me to watch this huge, massive line of vehicles and law enforcement type authorities that were coming through. I walked up to heading north on 12th and ended up meeting right up with that group of protesters that had been coming up a actual hill from 11th towards the precinct. And the feeling of it initially was, I think everybody was a little bit suspect of what the reasoning was for it. And so everybody had this kind of collective feeling of, let's really stick around here and make sure that nobody burns it to the ground, because we all had felt that was the kind of the play, if you will. They were hoping that we would then light stuff on fire and anarchy would ensue, and then all of a sudden the justification of any kind of forceful tactic that was used back would be there for them.
Right, because this is coming after the George Floyd protest, where they had burned down the police department there, the police headquarters there.
Exactly.
So you thought potentially we could replicate it here.
Well, and I only looking back at it, in hindsight a little bit too. There had been a week by the time that the precinct was abandoned. There had been a full week plus 2 days of protests, and a full week at Capitol Hill on the East Precinct. It was a Monday to Monday type scenario, and so you had a lot of incidents that happened in that week, from the gassing and the rubber bullets being used, and also to the guy that drove into the protest area, shot Daniel, and then was peacefully apprehended in front of the precinct as well. There was a lot of traumatic incidents in that particular week. So I look back on it, and I really do think that the cause of abandoning the precinct was done more as a, like, now your move, here's our move, now let's see what your move is, and in hopes that people would truly burn it to the ground. Because I think that at that point would have given some credence to, they would have given some power, if you will, to the police department's responses after that. And instead, that didn't happen. Instead, what was born was the CHOP.
All right. And so, like I said, for subscribers on Patreon and our supporters on Facebook, I think that's going to go up later on tonight, and it'll be there for you. It's a 40-minute interview with Jake Gravbrot and Marcus Harrison Green.
Awesome, man. Such good content. Got those exclusives popping. I see you, Will.
Man, I mean, the thing is, I'll be honest with you. It's like we stopped talking. We got our own network. We stopped talking to everybody else. And a lot of times when we talk, it's a lot of these discussions are emotional, traumatic, and it's like, man, we stopped ripping off the scabs for somebody else's network. We got our own. We talk to ourselves and talk to our people. You know what I'm saying? So it's very rare that we have any of these kind of in-depth discussions off of our platform now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we do a lot of interviews about what's happening right now, but like what we experienced and went through, I mean, it was a lot. You know what I'm saying? Let's see right here. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we got quite a few things. We got a clip from Hip Hop is Green. We got this 16-year-old girl in New York, a young lady in New York, opened up her own hair supply store, and then we've also got who else do we got here? We got some Melanin Magic. So quite a few things still left to go. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury.
And I am Trey Holiday. Hi, y'all.
Yay, holiday. All right, today's Wednesday, so Wellness Wednesday, and we're going to hop right into it. We got a clip right here from Hip Hop is Green.
Today, we had the Hip Hop Green dinner in Oakland, California. It was a beautiful thing. The 7th graders was crunk. A lot of great food, nutritious information shared, and I'm excited. Go a long way.
Check us out at hiphopisgreen.com. Be healthy.
Yeah, that's my man, Keith Tucker. You know what I'm saying? Man, go way back with Keith, like way back. But man, he's all about, you know what I'm saying, sustainable food, organic food, you know, and mixing it with the hip hop culture. I know you're into that sustainable and vegan thing and everything else, right?
You know it, man. I'm trying out some
better
vegan.
You than me.
Look, don't worry. I got you. I'm gonna hip you up to some stuff that is good. You're gonna be like, "Ooh, what, this vegan?" I'm gonna be like, "Yes, brother, I got you."
All right, that might be the biggest challenge of 2020, to turn Big O into a big vegan, right? This next clip right here. This is something that you sent over. This is a young entrepreneur in New York City, and I think you sent it over and said "Black Girl Magic."
Yeah.
Go ahead and introduce it.
Yeah, I saw this and I went, oh my God, absolutely. This is something that we need to spotlight and highlight. I love when I see young folks becoming entrepreneurs. We talk about this a lot. It's one of your big things about economics in our communities. So I love seeing when young folks say, look, I've been watching my mama. I think I got this. I think I can understand how to do this business and take it to the next level. So with that, we got this amazing Black Girl Magic segment out of New York.
New business has opened its doors in Brooklyn, and its owner may surprise you.
CBS 2's Alice Gaynor in Flatbush.
Paris McKenzie shows us around this newly opened beauty supply store on Church Avenue.
So we have all different colors. We even have like Afro kinky hair for like more natural looking styles.
She doesn't just work here, she owns it. And
I'm 16 years old.
You're 22, your boss is 16. How does that feel?
Paris, she's like a little sister to me, but you know, I respect her. It's fun.
Paris Beauty Supplies opened about a month ago. Once word got out on social media, people have been steadily coming through the door.
My cousin told me about this. She found it on Instagram and told me that a young lady, you know, of our kind in our community had opened up her first store, so I came to support.
You may be wondering what a teenager knows about owning a business.
I do have a lot of business experience. I've been helping my mom run her businesses since I was very, very young, so I know how to handle finances and how to market products in the store. I had enough money saved to invest in this.
Her mother owns a boutique on the street and a salon 2 doors down.
I could leave her to do anything from she was young.
In addition to running a business, Paris also has plans for another career.
I'm hoping to major in pre-med so I can become an orthopedic pediatric surgeon.
She's a straight A student, so I know she's going to do it.
Paris is an honors student about to enter her junior year of high school, and she's already taking college courses.
I don't really have any more free time, but when I do, I try to go out with my friends.
It's easy to forget when speaking with her that she is only 16. She hopes the store is successful.
Walking in here every morning, it makes me feel awesome.
But more than that, she hopes to inspire other young girls. In Flatbush, Brooklyn, Alice Gaynor, CBS 2 News.
Her mother, an older brother, also helped Paris out with the store. 16, I think she's more like 32, right?
The maturity level there.
She is up there. That's how empires start, by the way.
I have a feeling we're going to, I have a feeling we're going to be hearing about her in the future, that's for sure.
All right.
Absolutely. Hearing about her in the future for sure. I love it. I mean, I was inspired by it. I'm going to show my son, you know, that's the thing for me is like always getting my son inspired, who's 14. I'm like, look what she's doing at 16. So I loved it.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like we used to carry a lot of stories like that. But like before COVID, before protests, we used to carry a lot of stories, you know, where positive representation and self-image of what's possible, you know, in our community, locally and nationally and internationally. And, you know, ultimately, we'll get back to that. Melanin Magic, this one is because of time, it's gotten bumped actually a few times, man. Producer Nikki Barron, and I think we were supposed to play this 2 days ago, and then it wasn't in the queue. And then yesterday we went over time, and producer Nikki Barron went actually 1 block away to the Central, to I think the Seattle's oldest saloon, right down on First Avenue. And Nikki caught up with Breaks and Swells from Melanin Magic. And what's happening over there in the Central, and it's a program, I want to get this right, so I'm going to pull this up here. It's a partnership, a music partnership they got going with Big Building and Seattle Startup Showground. And basically, Seattle bands are going there and performing, and their performance is live streamed. And so like they got a really dope setup. Like I said, this was like we was doing our own version, our CD version months ago with Goodie Bag. We were streaming Goodie Bag from Black Dot, but their setup over there, the Central, was way better than what we had. And so basically, Nikki caught up with Breaks and Swells, and here is her clip for Melanin Magic.
We're Breaks and Swells. We're soul, funk, R&B, pop, blues, a little bit of everything. Oh, and I'm Marquita, the lead singer, and I do some songwriting, arranging, all that kind of stuff as well.
Derek, I'm on drums.
Dylan, I play guitar.
Noah, I'm on keys. My name is Bryce, I play bass guitar.
My name's Jeremy, and I play saxophone.
This year it's supposed to be, we're supposed to be doing quite a few festivals, and we had a LA tour, and then unfortunately we couldn't do any of that. So, but it gave us time to work on our material and be more prepared for the studio. So hopefully next year it'll come out guns blazing.
You can find our music on Facebook. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music.
If you go to our Bandcamp, you can buy our t-shirts, our records, we have CDs. Big Building and Showground have been putting on this series called Grounded, featuring Seattle musicians. I feel like when they started, they were doing them from home, which was really cool, and then moved to the Inscape Building, and now that the weather's kind of turned, we're here at the Central Saloon, which is one of Seattle's oldest bars. We've played here quite a few times. And we're just like very happy to be here and be back playing. It kind of feels weird.
It does.
Hey, without further ado, I think we're gonna have on Breaks and Swells. Take it away, y'all.
All right. Breaks and Swells right there, man. Marquita has actually been like jamming and writing and arranging and producing for, quite a while. And it's good to see they're she's found a band there that matches that dynamic style and sound that that she's pushing.
Yeah, that's great to see, man. And once again, I think one of the things that COVID has brought about is, hey, let's do, these innovative ways to still showcase artistry in our city. Like you said, hey, and I wasn't mad at the set we have right here, man. They were killing it. Goody bag.
That set was dope.
It was dope. So, once again, even wanting to make sure we showcase DJs, right? We had DJ Topspin here doing our DJ hour. There is now a lot of different venues trying to figure out some innovative ways to still showcase artistry, because that's one of the industries and sectors in our throughout the nation that's really been hit the hardest with COVID, man. So it's great to see that, the Central Saloon is holding it down for some artists.
Yeah, big shout out to Marquita and to her band, to Breaks and Swells. Before we get out of here, the big thing tomorrow is this historic town hall, and it's gonna be interesting, man. And I've talked to I guess almost everybody one way or another. Of course, you have Mayor Durkan, Nikita Oliver, KY King Garrett, King County Councilmember Gurmai Zahalai, Seattle School Board Director for District 7, Brandon Hersey. And then moderated by Besa from Cube 93 and from Marcus Harrison Green from the South Seattle Emerald, where we're taking questions over here on Converge site. You can go to I think we got an image of this. You can go to whereweconverge.com/contact, and you'll see a historic Seattle Town Hall. Click here. Oh, look, it's clicking. You click here, and then you're able to submit your question. For who you have a question for. And man, it's a lot of questions out there, man. And I'm interested to see how this is all gonna roll out tomorrow. I know for sure that nothing is ever perfect, and I think it's a good place to start from. And that I doubt that anything is totally gonna be resolved tomorrow or things like that. But what this is like I said, it's a platform where people's basically their agenda or their platform is all on the same space. When the mayor talks, the mayor is able, and any mayor, the mayor is able to use the power of the office. So that means press conferences there, all the big news stations, all the big papers and everything else. A lot of times when community talks, man, you push it on social media and everything else, and it's not an equal platform. And so why tomorrow is important is that there's an equal platform that's there. the mayor and community and other elected officials are all on the exact same platform. And so, you know, when people have their ideas, so there's a good opportunity for like, let's put King County Equity now in the mayor, like over here. We'll put him over there. Let's use Council Member Zahalai, for example. You know, he represents basically Seattle and Seattle area's biggest Black populations, in, you know, or the Central District, the South End, Skyway, or parts of Renton, I believe, and everything else. And, you know, this is an opportunity for him to speak to an audience. A lot of people, man, might not even ever heard of Skyway or just Skyway in passing, to explain, like, man, what's going on in this district. I know one of the things Councilmember Zahalai talks about is trying to make sure that Skyway, which has a very sizable Black population, doesn't get gentrified like the Central District. And so, you know, tomorrow presents an opportunity, a platform for like Councilmember Zahalai to actually talk to the public about what's going on in his district, you know. And so the kind of the same thing with school board director Hersey. You know, everybody got questions about what's going on in Seattle Public Schools, in education and everything else. So it's an equality of platform. A lot of times when Hersey speaks, there might be people listening, might not. When Councilmember Zahalai is talking about what he's trying to do in Skyway, might not. King County Equity now speaks, people listen, they might not. And the mayor, we already know some people listen, a lot of people, they don't listen. But either way, everybody's on the same platform tomorrow to be able to push their agenda, basically.
Yeah, definitely iconic. And, you know, talking to Cube staff and iHeartRadio staff last night and just in planning this, and all of us just saying how important this is going to be for the community. If we can see and what we can glean from last night's presidential debate, it really, you know, the community at large, and I mean the American community, deserves answers. They want to hear from folks. They want the transparency. They want to be included. They really want to allow their stake in this country to be used for their good. And so honestly, I think that this it is historical. It's going to be iconic that we're doing this. And I think that it really sets up an opportunity to figure out how to continue on in this regard, because leveling up that transparency and getting everybody at the same table, like at the same time, it's not done enough, to be honest. It's not done enough.
Right. And the thing is that, you know, so people are basically going to be able to push their platform, their agenda, things like that. But then there's also the questions. And that's why you have Besa there and also Marcus Harrison Green. And so those are the just general moderator questions. And then there's questions that are been coming in fast and furious. And also some live questions that are coming off of social media. So, you know, I'm sure everybody's tuned in to hear people's agenda and platform, but they're really tuned in to hear the questions. You know, so that's 6 o'clock tomorrow, 6 p.m. tomorrow, right here, wherever you're watching Converge right now, the morning update show. And then tonight at 9 o'clock, it's a pre-show. And actually, so Marcus is on that pre-show, and it's a few other people, but it's 9 o'clock. We'll schedule that in there. And, you know, people just kind of asking, like, it's almost an AMA pre-show, like, you know, what can people expect from this thing tomorrow, you know, and everything else. And hopefully the end result of tomorrow is a first step towards, you know, the next step. And we the next step is still to be determined, because there's a lot of information that's just not out to the public yet. But hopefully, you know, it's the first step. So we're excited about it.
Absolutely. And rightfully so, man. It's iconic. It's historic. And it's a great partnership. You know, once again, we talked about this when Besa was on, you know, connecting the community back to these major radio stations that, you know, historically there was times where they served community and then there was a lull. Well, there always needs that point person. And now that's Besa. So it's amazing to be connected and to bring that work into, you know, this larger sphere.
Well, I mean, and also you can't play Black music and say that Black Lives Matter and not have no connection to the Black community. Period. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's never too late to rectify situations and things like that. But it's like, you know, I mean, you know, for years, these guys were, you know, top performing radio, not only here, but up and down the West Coast. And it's like, man, you know, hey, you know, you can't continue to like I said, to perpetuate the Black culture through the airwaves and not have a connection to the Black community. So, you know, We're getting there. Hey, I'm standing up over here.
You know I am. You're not gonna catch me slipping no more.
All right, so look, we're gonna get out of here. Like I said, you'll hear from us again 9 o'clock tonight. It's a pre-show with Marcus Harrison Green. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. is a morning update show. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. is a historic town hall. Until then, peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.